Hey, all right, today's chat, where basically I'm reading you the blog that I just wrote, is called I Have Racist Thoughts. So I didn't post anything last week because of everything that was happening, and I wanted to learn as much as I could, yet release something that I knew wasn't going to be perfect. So here goes. When I first heard a life coach named Carl Lowenthal say something like, if you were raised in American society, you're racist, I thought, what? That's crazy. And then my brain came up with all the ways that she was wrong. My brain found all kinds of evidence to prove that I wasn't. So, for example, my brain said things like, wait, my daughter dated a black man and I was totally fine with it. I shudder when I hear people say the N word. I went to elementary school with tons of black kids and never thought a thing of it. But I really love watching movies about black people like Hidden Figures. But here's the thing, my defensive brain didn't help me understand what she was saying. She was simply saying we live in a society full of messages about things like gender, sexual orientation, weight, age, and race. So, first, let's define racism. So, one definition that I found, because there's a million definitions out there, is a belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and these racial differences produce a superiority of one race over another. Many would also say that systemic oppression is an important part of the definition. But before we talk more about racism, let's talk quickly about our brains. Our brains learn. They absorb messages from family members, friends, teachers, peers, society in general, and the media. These messages are usually received below our conscious awareness. So before I talk about media messages about race, let's talk about media messages regarding beauty and our bodies. And since I coach women, that's why I picked that topic. I figured it'd be pretty easy to understand. So if you are in a mediated environment, which of course you are, because you watch TV and you're online and all that kind of stuff. I'm 56, so think of how many decades you've heard ideas from the media about beauty in your body. So here's some of the ones that I came up with. Thin is in. You need a juicy butt, big boobs, and sumptuous lips. Plastic surgery can take care of everything. Wrinkles need to be fixed. A million diets exist, and you should be on one because part of your body is probably too big. Cellulite is just wrong. Barbie dolls. Here's the list of the most beautiful women in the world. Gray hair needs to be colored. Younger is better. Before putting on a bathing suit, make sure you've got that beach body. You better be sexy. If you're a superhero or whatever, you better be sexy. So, of course, your list may include some of that stuff, other stuff, depending on your age and the media that you've been exposed to. Maybe you scroll Insta a lot and you're convinced you don't look like you should. So let's say I saw a woman in a bikini and thought, gee, she really needs to work out or cover up. I would agree that it's a sexist thought. I'm sure I have many sexist thoughts simply because I was raised here in the USA. I'm sure I have many ideas about how women should look, how they should act, etc. The point is, many messages have been received, and your brain and mine come up with our own thoughts about women and their bodies. Often, we're not even aware of the thoughts. You just take them for granted as the truth. If I told 1,000 women they looked just like they were supposed to, I doubt a majority of them would agree with me. So let's talk about things we see in the media regarding race. A quick look online highlights results from many studies on the topic. For example, advertisements for products that everybody uses, from soap to soup, use white people way more often than black people. Black male actors in movies and TV are more likely to appear as thugs, gangbangers, and gang members. TV content is catered to white audiences. Reality-based shows like Cops are more likely to show Black men as criminals instead of as police officers. Historically, Black men do not serve as gatekeepers in news media organizations, so coverage of Black men is served through the lens of white gatekeepers. News stories of crimes committed by Black men are more comprehensive and visually in depth. They have mugshots, they're in handcuffs, and they're being escorted by a police officer than stories about crimes committed by white men. Black men are overwhelmingly prioritized in the coverage of crime reporting. News stories more often focus on white victimization in crime reports as opposed to Black victimization. In the news, Black people are more often associated with social problems like urban decay, violent crime, and expensive social welfare. In news stories where a white police officer shoots a Black man, the life of the white officer is highlighted. By contrast, the life of the Black victim is not. For example, the police officer will be associated with positive attributes outside of the shooting. The Black victim does not receive positive attributions. For instance, missed child support payments are less likely to be highlighted for the white officer, whereas the missed child support payments of the Black victim are more likely to be highlighted. Identifiers are used much more often to describe Black men as opposed to white men. For example, a man robbed a bank describes a crime committed by a white man, whereas a Black man robbed a bank describes the crime committed by a Black man. The media often describes Black people as a group rather than as individuals. They are Black people or the Black community. White people often learn about Black people from media instead of personal relationships. So, as I discussed earlier, just as your brain gets flooded with information that is sexist, body image related, it also gets flooded with information about race. Your brain is exposed to messages, and the messages have an effect. And even though you may have examples of how you were raised not to be racist, there are decades of messages your brain has absorbed that are racist. And again, we are not usually aware that our brains are being affected. We are like fish swimming in water. We don't notice the water. The water we swim in is white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't just mean that you put on a KKK hood, you use the N-word, or you join a white supremacist group. White supremacy also means living in a society where people in one group are more important than another. And I'm sure you can see where white lives have been valued over Black lives for centuries. In the beauty and body messages example, it's easy to admit that I have negative thoughts about my body. And now, as a coach, I realize those thoughts are optional. I can decide to work on the thoughts like, my thighs are disgusting, and I need to look like I'm 25, even though I'm postmenopausal. I'm aware of those thoughts, and I can learn to manage my mind around them. I don't feel guilty about having the thoughts. But when I first heard the idea that I have racist thoughts, I was horrified. In a split second, my brain threw out racism is bad. Racist thoughts are bad. If I'm racist, it means I'm bad. And as you can imagine, those thoughts made me feel pretty bad. I felt shame and guilt. And let me tell you, those feelings don't often lead to self-discovery and growth. Guilt and shame usually lead to denial and avoidance. So just like the sexist messages you've received about your body or women, your brain received racist messages too. But acknowledging racist messages often freaks us out. But freaking out doesn't help us change. Change comes from doing the work of looking at what's in your mind. So step one, allow yourself to reflect for a while to become aware of the thoughts you have that may be racist, thoughts you may be trying to suppress. As awful as this sounds, write them down. Look at them with curiosity and allow yourself to wonder rather than judge yourself. That's when you have the ability to change. You won't have compassion for yourself or for others until you have compassion for yourself. And the best news, your mind can change if you want it to. It's ongoing work that's always worth the effort. I'm Dawn Ziegler. I have a master's degree in media studies, and I'm a certified life coach who works with women who think emotional baggage is screwing with their romantic relationship. You can check out my videos and blogs and sign up for a free mini coaching session at my site, therebuildingcoach.com. Hope to see you soon.